This week we're talking 5G, the latest mobile network tech, starring robot hands, robot feet, and a robo-worm. Welcome to Bournemouth, on the south coast of the United Kingdom, famous for sandy beaches, seaside amusements, and having the worst 4G mobile reception in the UK.
I hate it. It's not good in anywhere, really. It's very, very temperamental, and it's really not good.
Well, there's some good news. 5G, the next generation of mobile network, is coming. But it's not just about your phone. 5G promises to enable self-driving cars, smart cities, and the whole Internet of Things, as every machine starts talking to every other machine. This week, the first stage of bidding to become a 5G operator in the UK ended, with EE, 3, O2 and Vodafone splashing out more than £1.3 billion for the privilege. Now, to date, no standards have been agreed, but we do have a rough idea of what 5G should look like. So, let's get you 5G ready. 5 things you need to know about 5G. 1. Yes, 5G will be much faster than 4G. HD movies can be downloaded in seconds rather than minutes, with speeds 10 to 100 times faster than 4G. 2. Unlike 4G masts, which broadcast in all directions, 5G antennas will send concentrated beams directly to your device. 3. 5G is all about super quick response times, and that's crucial for things like self-driving cars, which will use the tech to communicate with each other at high speeds. 4. It's a new wave. 5G will use a part of the radio frequency spectrum that's never been used before, meaning it will broadcast on shorter millimetre waves. That means more data for all those devices, but there is a problem. These waves can't travel through buildings or even rain. 5. The solution is new masts, and lots of them. But the good news is that they only need to be tiny. These mini masts will need to be much closer together, and they'll act like a relay team, transmitting signals around buildings. 5G projects are still being trialled, and the kinks in the technology are still being worked out. But Laura Lewington has been to see what is claimed to be the world's first public 5G testbed.
The trial taking place here in Bristol's Millennium Square aims to give the public an idea of what 5G could make possible. This communal virtual reality experience shows streaming of high bandwidth content on many devices all at once, all on one network with no time lag or dropout. Dancing in unison, we played a game involving chasing moving stars. These demos couldn't be in full 5G because current smartphones can't oblige, but every other element is there, with these 5G new radios throughout the area transmitting signal. The team here anticipate 5G to be a network of networks, combining the best elements of connectivity we have now with millimetre or extremely high frequency waves, plus the potential to tap into Wi-Fi networks and Li-Fi connections, particularly when we're on the move.
Imagine, for instance, that you are having Wi-Fi network or you are having LTE network, 4G network while you are traveling on the train, you go under the tunnel, nothing of this work, and then in the tunnel you install Li-Fi network that we are demonstrating as future of connectivity here. Then actually your connection automatically, without you realizing, in a seamless way, is going to switch from your 4G network or your 5G network to this Li-Fi network.
We've talked a lot on this programme about the possibilities for smart homes, connected transport, and of course smart cities, and 5G could provide the catalyst for more of them to actually come into play. This prototype aims to display one way that 5G could be used within a smart city. Now what you can see on top of this cycle helmet is a 360 camera, a Raspberry Pi which is doing the work, and a battery pack right here. The idea is someone cycling throughout the city would be constantly picking up pictures and they would be fed through a 5G network. So if there was any problem, that could be found immediately and dealt with without delay. And if we can rely on that low latency, then it's game-changing. When it comes to robotic surgery, a split second could mean the difference between life and death. Or it could be used to create realities that seem almost impossible, like anyone being able to shoot a goal like Messi, via a 5G connected robot leg, of course.
Using 5G ultra-low latency technology, I'm able to transmit action and reaction. I'm able to transmit touch. So for the first time, we will be able to transmit engineering skills, musical skills, football skills, medical skills, and suddenly we will build an internet which will allow us to democratize labor the very same way as the internet has democratized knowledge and information.
For most of us, though, we just want better connection, and the networks seem keen to manage our expectations beyond that.
The average person on the street will see 5G as a way to give them a much better smartphone experience. It'll give them faster data connections, lower latency, but it's important to remember that we're right at the start of the 5G journey, and we need to look ahead over the next decade to understand what new applications beyond smartphones will start to appear as the technology matures and becomes more widespread.
South Korea, the US, the UAE and China seem to be leading the way with commercial launches expected later this year. But in the meantime, smartphone manufacturers will be working on bringing us the 5G compatible devices that we need for whenever the time comes.
That was Lara in Bristol. Well, here in Bournemouth, 4G is somewhat underwhelming to say the least. So we've been asking people what they think of the arrival of 5G.
Perhaps there are lots of exciting things that we don't know about, in which case I say bring it on, bring it to Bournemouth first.
It doesn't light any fires for me.
I can see it being useful for me in about 10 years when I catch up with the rest of society. So I'm still thinking about, is it 3G we're talking about now? 3G for me
can
soon.
cope with that,
I'll
yeah.
be pleased with that.
So a bit of a mixed reception for 5G so far here. Nevertheless, the local authority is aiming to make Bournemouth one of the first places globally to deploy 5G and become the first smart city, technically smart town, in the UK. Heading up the implementation of 5G is Ruth Spencer, who took me on a tour to show me some of the new cabling and potential antennae sites that will underpin what will be a radical new infrastructure.
4G to 5G is going to be a massive step change in infrastructure. So, for example, in 4G, what you would have had before is big masts quite a long distance apart.
Covering a large area.
Covering a large area, whereas with 5G, particularly in urban areas like this, you'll need lots of small cells very close together.
That's a massive infrastructure challenge, isn't it? If you need lots and lots of masts to cover a city.
I think what we're trying to do at the moment is understand how cost effective it is going to be to deploy at this kind of level.
It just sounds like a massive ask. Is it realistic?
It is a big undertaking, but the potential that 5G is going to unlock is going to be completely transformative.
Now, the problem is the 5G signal is very fragile, easily blocked by trees and buildings. And that means that Ruth's team has had to produce really detailed surveys of where the antennae need to be. Whenever you put a new building up, it interferes with the 5G array of signals that you've got. So
yes.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's a challenge that definitely needs to be looked at. So with the mapping and planning software that we've been developing, we need to start considering how do we update those tools and how do we update the maps that we're looking at in order to plan those networks.
But it's the potential that may make the investment worth it, as 5G will be the backbone of all those futuristic technologies that we've been long promised.
So 5G isn't necessarily about getting better signal on your phone or faster data speeds on your phone. It's about machine-to-machine communication. in machines, in advanced manufacturing, in robotics. So it becomes much more about the opportunity 5G will bring around productivity, as well as the ability to deliver services.
For 5G to work, serious investment and new infrastructure is needed. So could it be that some cities will be flush with transformative technology while other places will be left behind? I get the sense we might be about to see the beginnings of a new digital divide where some areas have 5G and some areas don't. For example, rural areas where there's a small population, so it just might not be worth it, but does that mean they miss out?
Whilst 5G is likely to be rolled out at a millimetre wave level in cities, there's still the opportunity for rural areas to really benefit from 5G in other areas like farming, connected autonomous tractors, for example, and you would need some 5G infrastructure to support that, but you would need something different in a city. It's about understanding what's needed for users in which locations and what's needed for infrastructure in which locations.
We're talking about autonomous vehicles being able to take you anywhere, but if it turns out they need a 5G network and you roll into a city which doesn't have a 5G network, what will that mean for your autonomous vehicle? Will it not be able to operate in that city?
So one of the areas that connected autonomous vehicles are looking at is where they will be deployed and what their use will be. So for example, in the early stages, maybe you'd be looking at connected autonomous vehicles for across motorways, for example, for covering long distances with freight or that sort of thing. And then it will evolve.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that the Facebook scandal rumbled on. The beleaguered social network has said that the data of up to 87 million people may have been improperly shared, many more than previously disclosed. It also revealed that most of Facebook's 2 billion users may have had their data scraped from profiles using now disabled malicious search techniques. A gun attack on YouTube's headquarters in California left 3 people wounded. Reports in US media say that the female suspect was motivated by anger at her belief YouTube was filtering her videos and reducing the money she could make. Researchers at MIT have developed a new technology that allows people to use speech recognition without actually needing to speak. It uses electrodes that scan the jaw and face for signals produced when the wearer thinks about verbalizing words. So now you can look a bit daft in public instead of just sounding it. An advert for the HTC U11 smartphone featuring diver Tom Daley has caused a splash with authorities in the UK. The ad, in which the Olympian was shown taking selfies in a swimming pool, has been banned after the advertising watchdog said that if customers used the phone in a similar fashion, they'd likely damage it. And finally, in Russia, the inaugural test flight of a postal delivery drone was more OMG than UPS after it was destroyed shortly after takeoff. The $20,000 hexacopter, which was adorned with Russia Post branding, smashed unceremoniously into a wall in front of onlookers. Ouch.
Over the last few weeks, we've been looking a lot at how we might be working in the future, on building sites, in factories, even in the doctor's surgery. You know the story: robots, jobs, us on the scrap heap, repeat. In the retail space, Amazon is driving a lot of the changes, and for them, automating the picking process is as critical as automating the delivery process. Now, every year they hold the Amazon Robotics Challenge, and this year it was won by a team from Brisbane in Australia. So Nick Queck went to meet the brains behind the bots.
16 teams from around the globe went bot to bot in Japan. The goal? To build a custom droid that can identify common objects, pick them up, and sort them out in record time. Scooping the $80,000 grand prize were these guys from the Australian Centre for Robotic Vision of Queensland University of Technology. And when I got an invite for a private tour of their lab, I expected the customary conservative welcome from the usual studious scholars.
Okay, let's go and see Carmen.
After you. How befitting that an award-winning robot should have his own bot butler.
All of these robots require some degree of specialist knowledge, so if a particular specialist isn't there on the day, it's really hard to actually get the robot to operate, whereas Pepper, anyone can pull Pepper out and then start running the robot.
If you want to see Cardman in action, select an item on my screen.
Let's go for the marbles.
Hey, Cardman, please fetch the marbles.
A robot is telling another robot how to be a robot.
Cartman has 3 axes of movement and works like an arcade crane claw, but he's got 2 hands, a pincer and a suction grip. He chooses which one to use depending on what item he needs to pick.
There's a lot of different ideas that we brainstormed and that we prototyped and that we engineered, and finally this is what we came up with,
Right,
and this is the one that actually won the challenge. Yeah.
And not very compact, is it?
Cartman sees what he's doing via a depth sensing camera, which helps him visualize 3D models of objects.
So you can see that the sponges are sticking out further than the marbles, for example. And with that information, the robot then decides what is the object that I want to pick and where do I pick that object.
He's able to identify learned products and new ones too. His discerning eye is critical.
Actually, in the Amazon case, you get so many new objects every day that you actually cannot have just a library of all possible objects ever. So your vendor puts a new sticker on an object, or the boxes change shape, and so it becomes a new object, and you need to train a system to understand this is a new object and this is how I would pick it up.
The team now are looking beyond warehouse walls. It's not about picking items from a shelf, but from a branch. Cue Harvey, the pepper picking harvester.
We grow a lot of capsicums in Queensland. We grow over 80% of Australia's capsicums, and we export a lot of that as well. In Australia, we have a big agricultural industry, and one of the things that we're trying to improve is automating that technology, improving the performance and efficiencies.
He's also got 2 arms in one and a special camera to see what's in front of him. He knows when a fruit is ripe and uses an electric saw to cut the pepper's stem, or as it's known to only people in this room, it's peduncle.
It also uses a state-of-the-art deep learning system to detect what's called a peduncle. This is particularly hard because it's green on green. Through the deep learning system, there's a background neural network, a deep neural network, and what you get out of that is activations, and we can visualize this using a heat map. And what that gives is an area of interest where it thinks the peduncle is.
Once he's spotted the pepper though, getting around its obstructing leaves can be a fiddly business.
So this is their new camera system. It actually comprises of 9 different camera lenses at different depths to give the impression of a human looking around leaves. It's powered by 9 individual Raspberry Pis and is 3D printed, so it's fairly cheap to prototype.
Right now, Harvey's just a proof of concept. The team haven't analysed how commercially viable a bot like him could be in the wild. But his designers say he could reduce crop waste by helping farmers harvest more at peak times. He's able to manoeuvre between crop rows and work for 8 hours straight, without tea breaks.
The other value we see in Harvey is actually not just harvesting the fruit, but being a full crop management system. So what this allows it to do is detect fruit, detect the grade of the fruit, and also inform the grower how to what's on his plant at real time. This can then tell the grower where to send it, actually make contracts and sell his fruit before it's even harvested.
Well, thanks very much, Pepper. I have to say, it's been a lovely tour, but I think it's time for me to go. So we should say goodbye here. Namaste.
Brilliant. That was Nick in Brisbane. Now, one of the big questions that comes out of more and more automation of jobs is, of course, what it means for us. Will we all be out of work, or will a new raft of jobs be created? Well, here's what our panel of academic experts predicts.
So I don't see anything to suggest that there's going to be mass unemployment over the forthcoming decades due to technology. There's no reason to believe that the quantity of jobs is going to be a problem in the future. What is a big problem, I believe, is some workers are going to suffer from downgrading as they lose their jobs. And we need to find solutions for that.
Firstly, people are going to have the need to retrain. We traditionally had this idea that you go to university maybe 3 years and by your mid-20s you're sorted and you do some sort of job for the rest of your life. I think we're going to be continually reskilling, retraining. So we're going to need to be prepared for that. So universities are going to have to play a role in training not just the kids 18 to 22, but I think throughout your career as we grow older, we're going to be working for much longer.
What does that mean for education and training across sectors, from schools to workplace training? And are our systems really preparing people for a workplace where there will be automation and there will be artificially intelligent systems? And do we understand how to improve ourselves as learners? These are going to be vital skills in the workplace of the future. So let's use AI to help us be smarter ourselves. And I certainly think that's much preferable to worrying about whether artificial intelligence is going to replace us.
I mean, who wants to be stuck in the same job for the rest of their life? I think that's something that we should really embrace, the chance to do new things.
We need to move away from a system that relies on students memorizing information, because that's what we have computers to do very, very effectively. But what we need to move more towards is a curriculum that encourages activities such as collaborative problem solving.
But we need to realize that reskilling is not going to be the solution to everything. The best solution I know goes to wage insurance. And that is being applied in the United States for workers that lose out to import competition. And so if you can show that your job was lost due to globalization, the government would give you assurance that you're not going to earn less than this amount if you find a new job. We should apply that to technology as well.
You might say, well, should AI pay tax if it's working and taking somebody else's jobs? I don't think the AI should be, but I think we should perhaps put a tax on data because this is what is being exploited. And what I don't think people realise is that they're giving up a huge amount of data just for free. And ownership of that data is going to lead really to ownership of work. In some sense, data is the new oil. So, you know, who owns the oil rigs is going to have the power in this game.
And that does serve as a very effective moat for those companies against new entrants. Maybe this is something we want to think about as a society in our industrial policy. Maybe we want to think about ways that we can continue to support innovation even where so much of the value in an industry is trapped in data sets owned by the big tech players.
Within European research councils, there's quite an extensive discussion about trying to push for what they call responsible innovation. Encourage engineers and scientists to think more responsibly about the processes of automation, to sort of engage with us users, not just as consumers, but as workers. A good future of work is one in which people and machines work together.
And that's it from us in Bournemouth. Don't forget that we live on Facebook and on Twitter at BBC Click. And this place might be the worst in the country for 4G, but I have to say it's one of the best for fish and chips. So that's where we're going now. See ya.